Mike Perry was born on September 15th, 1991 in Flint, Michigan. Growing up, he moved between Michigan and Florida to live in various homes and attend different schools. He faced lots of bullying while attending school. In Michigan, he was one of the few white kids at his school, which he was bullied for. Because of Perry's refusal to stand and do nothing, he'd often get into fights. He worked for a man who was the brother of Dan Severn, who was a legend in MMA. This led to Mike having a newfound fascination for the sport. At just 18 years old, Mike made his amateur debut into MMA. He'd compile an amateur record of 8-3. Mike grew up in poverty, so as a teenager, he and his friends would rob houses so they could pay rent. At 19, he'd get caught for burglary and serve house arrest, which would later lead to jail time after a failed drug test. When he got out, he headed to a UFC gym in Winter Springs, Florida, and began working as a trainer and coach. Mike eventually made his professional debut in MMA in 2014. He fought in multiple regional promotions. He had 6 fights in under 2 years, winning all by knockout or technical knockout. He also made his debut into boxing during this time in 2015. In late 2016, Mike would sign with the UFC. He'd make his debut fighting Hyun Yu Lim at UFC 202, replacing Sultan Alaev. He was fighting on the main card, which was viewed by 1.65 million people. At the weigh-ins, Mike would make his introduction to UFC fans. He made a bigger statement by beating Hyun in the first round. He'd fight less than 2 months later at UFC 204. Fighting against Danny Roberts, Mike won the bloody back and forth by knockout. He made another less than 2 months turnaround at UFC on Fox 22's main card. He would face off against Alan Jourbane. He decided to mess around by taking a picture of Alan and handing it to him. Alan was infuriated by this, which Mike mocked him for by sticking out his tongue. Their fight would end Mike's undefeated record, as Jourbane defeated him by unanimous decision. This loss would end Mike Perry's 2-month turnarounds. His next fight would be in April 2017 at UFC Fight Night 108. He fought against Jake Ellenberger as a return to the main card. He won this fight when he KO'd Jake with a hard elbow. This earned Mike his first performance of the night. At Fight Night 116, Mike used another one of his joints to knock out Alex Reyes. This earned Mike another performance of the night, earning him $100,000 in under a year. He ended the year fighting Santiago Ponzinibbio. Santiago was on a 5-fight win streak, 3 of which were by knockout. They faced off at UFC on Fox 26, ending in a decision win for Santiago. Mike once again made a 2-month turnaround, fighting against Max Griffin in Mike's hometown of Orlando, Florida. He would lose that fight as well by decision. This would also be Mike's last 2-month turnaround. His next fight was on UFC 226's main card against Yancy Medeiros. Yancy had sustained an injured rib before the fight, so he was replaced by Paul Felder. Mike would beat Felder by split decision, ending his 2-fight losing streak. Mike headed over to Denver to fight against UFC and WEC title challenger Donald Cerrone. They would co-headline Fight Night 139, where Cerrone would submit Perry by armbar. He headed back to the state of Florida for Fight Night 150, fighting the Brazilian cowboy Alex Oliveira. The two would win Fight of the Night, along with Mike winning the fight. Mike headed to South America to fight at Fight Night 156. He faced off against the Ultimate Fighter 21 winner Vicente Luque as the card's co-main event. With a minute and a half left in round 3, Luque would hit Mike with a flying knee before getting taken down. Within seconds of the takedown, Mike started bleeding from a forehead cut. By 30 seconds, Luque's entire left torso was covered in blood. Luque attempted a submission, but it seemed that all the red water helped Mike slip out. After the fight, we'd see that the flying knee had caused Mike's entire nose bridge to lean right. Despite the damage he took in the last round, Mike only lost this fight by split decision. Even with such a graphic injury, Mike made his return to the cage just 4 months after his fight with Luque. He made a return against GF Neal at UFC 245. In round 1, Neal caught Mike with multiple kicks and punches, eventually dropping Mike and forcing the ref to stop the fight. This would be the first and last time that Mike would lose by knockout or technical knockout in his MMA career. He would come back at UFC Vegas 4 against rear naked choker Mickey Gall. Before the fight, Mike announced that he let go of his other trainers and would only have his girlfriend, Latori Gonzalez, as his coach. While this was a weird decision to make, it did pay off since Mike won against Gall by decision. His next fight came at UFC 255 against former UFC champion Robbie Lawler. Lawler had to pull out due to an undisclosed injury and was replaced by Tim Means, who was a multiple weight champion at King of the Cage. While cutting weight, Mike Perry believed that it would be the death of him, so he would have to miss weight. Mike would lose the fight by decision. Mike would face off against Daniel Rodriguez at UFC on ABC2. This event was the first time the UFC used their new uniform partner's shorts, Venom. Mike would also lose this fight by decision, and it would be his last UFC fight before being released by the promotion. Before going to Mike's career outside of the UFC, I want to get into his life outside combat sports, because it's just as notable to his career, if not more. On New Year's Eve in 2016, someone allegedly approached his then girlfriend. When Mike told them to go away, the stranger punched him. Mike responded by hitting him back in self-defense, knocking the guy out. He also had a history of using racial slurs, mostly the N-word.
What's good, man?
Many people, including other MMA fighters, criticized his usage of these words. In response to this, Mike said that a DNA test showed that his ancestry includes being 2% African. But after becoming a father in 2021, Mike wanted to be a better example for his child. He apologized for his usage of the N-word, vowing to never use it again. In July 2020, police in Lubbock, Texas questioned Mike Perry about 3 people who were allegedly assaulted at a restaurant. Some of it was caught on camera, showing an old man in a heated dispute with Mike. The man lunged at him and was knocked out. Mike was then charged with Class A assault, which is just a misdemeanor. Mike explained that he acts like that when others try to get physical with him. As for the other 2 allegations, Mike allegedly attacked a restaurant staffer and got into another altercation with a woman. He also repeatedly used the N-word. In October of that same year, Mike's ex-wife Danielle Nickerson claimed that early in February, Mike got angry at a woman at a bar, later taking his anger out on Danielle when the couple returned home. She said that he took her down and repeatedly punched her in the head, bruising her face. Mike's mother, Sabra, later came to pick Danielle up and take her to Sabra's house. When Mike showed up at the house, Sabra locked him out and called the police. She also claimed that in a separate incident, Mike allegedly hit her in the head with his wedding ring on, leaving her with a hematoma. She said she had filed a restraining order after their relationship ended. In response, Mike Perry denied these allegations, and so far, no charges have been filed against him. A few months after his release from the UFC, Mike Perry had signed with the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Mike would fight just a month later at social media company Thriller's Triad Combat. He would win against Michael Seals by split decision. Mike would make his debut in Bare Knuckle at BKFC Knucklemania 2. He fought Julian Lane as the card's co-main event. He would win the fight by decision while also winning Fight of the Night. He'd have his second fight against MMA veteran Michael Page at BKFC 27, London. After the fight went 5 whole rounds, the judges went to a split draw. Not wanting such an exciting fight to end this way, the BKFC allowed the fight to go 1 more round. This extra round gave Mike the time he needed to win by a majority decision. At BKFC 41, Mike made his light heavyweight debut to fight against former UFC middleweight champion Luke Ralph Lauren Rockhold. This weight shift sounds like a lot, but BKFC holds its middleweight at 175 pounds, while light heavyweight is at 185 pounds. He would win by a second round TKO retirement. In this case, it means that the opponent themselves wanted to end the fight. It was later revealed that Mike had actually chipped Luke's front tooth. At BKFC 56, Mike Perry went to middleweight, facing another former UFC champion in Eddie Alvarez, the former lightweight champion. They would fight for the BKFC's King of Violence belt, similar to the UFC's BMF belt that started back in 2019. After round 2, Eddie's corner would call for the fight to end, leaving Mike with another TKO win. At BKFC Knucklemania 4, he returned to light heavyweight to face Thiago Alves, who was the former inaugural BKFC middleweight champion and a former UFC title challenger. In just 1 minute, Mike would win against the former BKFC champ by TKO, making him 5-0. After 9 years, Mike would return to boxing to face Jake Paul. Mike Perry was the replacement for Mike Tyson, who had a medical emergency just 2 months before. This fight wouldn't be Mike's moment, as he lost against Jake by TKO. To add salt to the wound, Conor McGregor, the co-owner of BKFC, announced that Mike was fired from the promotion. Anyways, Mike Perry's next bare knuckle fight will be at BKFC 82, fighting against UFC veteran Jeremy Stephens.